The sun was just peeking over the horizon, draping the cul-de-sac in a soft, deceptive calm, the kind that tricks you into forgetting chaos is just around the corner. I sipped my coffee, standing at the edge of my driveway, when I saw it, a massive, minivan-sized RV barreling down our quiet street. Not just any RV. This one belonged to Carol Benson, self-proclaimed queen of our HOA. And apparently, my private driveway had been annexed into her personal empire. I stepped forward, squinting against the glare. "Morning, Carol." "That's a big rig for a breakfast run." I called, tried to sound casual. Her perfectly coiffed hair gleamed in the windshield, sunglasses reflecting a world she believed she owned. She waved like I was a minor inconvenience in the epic saga of her life. "I'm just parking it here for a few hours," she said, syrupy sweet but rigid, each word steeped in entitlement. I chuckled nervously. About that, this is my private driveway. You can't." "Excuse me," she snapped, slamming the brakes mere feet from my front steps. The engine growled like an angry beast. "I can park wherever I want. HOA rules don't mention driveway etiquette." I swallowed hard. "Carol, that's exactly the problem. The rules do matter. You can't just—" "Do not lecture me," she barked, leaning out the window as though delivering the 10 Commandments herself. "I've paid my fees. I've earned my spot. You're being unreasonable." I raised my hands. "Look, I get it, but if you park there, you're blocking my garage. I literally cannot." She honked. Short, furious bursts that rattled my chest and made the coffee in my hand vibrate. My heart leapt into my throat. I backed toward the door, hoping this was just bluster, but Carol wasn't done. She revved the engine, a low, deliberate growl, tested her power against my peaceful suburban morning. Then she inched forward. I froze. Time seemed to stutter. Neighbors peeked from blinds, whispering like this was reality TV. My entire morning teetered on disaster. The RV's bumper kissed the lawn edge, scraping the curb with a metallic groan that made my stomach lurch. My heart pounded like a war drum, each beat echoing the absurdity of the scene. I saw her sunglasses flash in the sun, hands gripping the wheel like she was steering through a battlefield. "Carol, stop. Just stop." I shouted, running forward, sneakers kicking up gravel. Her head tilted, one eyebrow raised in the patented, "You're such a problem" expression. "I'm not stopping," she said, calm, almost cheerful, like reading from a prepared speech. "This is your lesson in HOA harmony." I gaped. "Harmony? You're about to crush my mailbox." Her foot pressed harder on the gas. Tires gnashed against concrete. I froze mid-step, imagining splintered wood, scattered flowers, and my perfect lawn destroyed. Then came the first thunk. Wood splintered, concrete cracked. My heart sank. I ran faster, reaching for the RV's side before more damage. But she was unstoppable. The front nudged my garage corner, scraping along it. "Carol, are you insane?" I screamed, adrenaline drowning rational thought. Her voice, unnervingly calm over the engine roar. Insane? No. Assertive? Absolutely. And you're welcome. I leaned against the doorframe, chest heaving, watching in disbelief. My garage door hung crooked, dented and scratched. Mailbox, splintered. Front steps, chipped. And through it all, Carol sat grinning like she delivered a masterclass in suburban domination. Neighbors had gathered, whispers rippling through the street. Phones emerged. Someone muttered, "Is she going to jail?" I pinched my nose bridge. I need to call the police." I muttered more to myself than anyone else. Carol leaned out again. "Oh, the cops? Really?" Her voice was honey-sweet, with a razor edge. "Do you think they'll care? Or is this just another way for you to be difficult?" Her words hung like smoke, pungent, suffocating. Anger flared hot in my chest, but then the absurdity hit. My driveway partially destroyed, neighbors filming, and Carol completely unbothered. And then she did the impossible, shifted the RV into reverse, grinning like she... Carol was gearing up for round 2. I froze, my voice stuck somewhere between shock and disbelief. She wasn't finished. The RV inched backward, Massive tires crunching over what was left of my lawn like some unstoppable war machine. My chest tightened, adrenaline mixing with sheer incredulity. How could anyone be this audacious? Neighbors had scattered down the street. Some were filming, some frozen in horror, others just shaking their heads in silent judgment. "Carol, stop. You're destroying everything," I yelled, waving my arms like a man trying to halt a runaway train. My words were swallowed by the roar of the engine. "Destroying? Nonsense," she replied smoothly, as if reading aloud from an HOA handbook of entitlement. "I'm merely rearranging the landscaping." I stumbled back, almost tripping over a toppled flower pot. My hands shook as I snatched my phone and dialed 911, my voice tight and rapid. "Yes, I need the police. There's a woman, an RV, she's literally attacking my property." Through the line, the dispatcher's calm voice barely cut through the chaos. "Stay safe. Keep a barrier between you and the vehicle if possible." Barrier? My only barrier was disbelief and thin air. Carol, seemingly delighted by my panic, leaned out the window and waved at the neighbors like she was leading a parade float. "Don't worry, everyone. I'm just demonstrating responsible parking." I clenched my fists, my breath ragged. My garage was worse than before, and the RV now hovered dangerously close to my porch. My mind raced. How do you stop someone who has no concept of boundaries? Suddenly, the RV lurched again. One of the rear tires struck the stone walkway with a sickening crack, sending shards flying. My favorite garden gnome toppled over, looking like it was silently judging me. A neighbor yelled, "Call the HOA?" I opened my mouth to shout back, but Carol was already speaking over the chaos. "Oh, they love me. Don't worry. I have all the receipts." Receipts? As if that justified turning my home into a driving course. My phone buzzed. Text from the dispatcher. "Help is on the way." Relief started to creep in, but Carol's RV growled once more. She revved it like a predator, inching toward my porch with terrifying deliberation. I stepped back, heart hammering. The air was thick with dust, exhaust, and the metallic tang of impending disaster. Then it happened. The unmistakable crack was splintering. My stomach dropped. The porch, my small sanctuary, had finally succumbed. One step collapsed under the weight, sending a cascade of broken wood and dust into the air. I coughed, waving at neighbors leaning over fences, mouse agape, phones recording every moment. Carol leaned out. A triumphant smile plastered across her face. "See? Perfectly aligned," she announced, as though she'd solved a geometry problem instead of demolishing my property. I wanted to scream, needed to scream, but my voice caught in my throat, choked by anger, disbelief, and helplessness. "Carol, you completely—" I stopped. Words had failed me entirely. "Destroyed? Or improved?" she offered helpfully, with that infuriating grin. "It all depends on perspective." I took a shaky step forward, surveying the wreckage. My garage corner was a twisted mess of metal and splintered wood, paint peeled in long, angry streaks. My once pristine lawn was now tire tracks and clumps of soil. I could almost hear it screaming in protest. I can't believe this," I muttered, running hands through my hair. I looked around the street, neighbors frozen, phone still recording, and Carol still grinning like she'd just won some twisted suburban battle. Neighbors lingered, some whispering to each other, others filming, everyone frozen in that peculiar mix of fascination and horror that only true suburban chaos can produce. Carol, completely unfazed, climbed out of the RV like a queen surveying her conquered kingdom. "You know," she said, tilting her head, "I could pay for it, or we can negotiate." "Negotiate?" I blinked at her. My lips twitched with dry, sarcastic humor I barely recognized. "Negotiate? Carol, you just drove a 40-foot RV into my home. I don't even think lawyers negotiate this politely." She shrugged, the picture of innocent entitlement. "Lawyers, schmowers. Let's not escalate. I just want what's fair, and honestly, you were being so difficult this morning." I inhaled sharply, trying to steady myself. The smell of gasoline mixed with sawdust and crushed flowers hung heavy in the air. My coffee, abandoned on the porch, was cold and forgotten. Then the silence hit, not peaceful, but the kind that foreshadows the next disaster. Carol's smile twisted subtly, a glint I didn't want to recognize. She stepped back toward the RV, fidgeting with the wheel. My stomach dropped. Something in her posture screamed, "This isn't over." I knew, with sinking certainty, that she was plotting her next move, and it was going to be worse. Before I could process the wreckage, her phone rang. She answered with a smug, practiced tone, the kind that makes you want to throw your own phone at a wall. "Yes, darling." "Oh, yes. I'm just negotiating," she said, nodding dramatically toward my ruined porch. I squinted. Negotiating with who? Moments later, a van with the HOA logo skidded into the cul-de-sac. Lights flashing, not sirens, but close enough. Two impeccably dressed HOA officers poured out, clipboard in hand, eyes wide as they surveyed the chaos. My neighbors muttered behind curtains, tension palpable. Carol waved like a pageant queen. "Hello, aren't you here to support me? I'm merely exercising my rights." One officer cleared his throat, glancing at me. "Sir, ma'am, we received a complaint regarding a property dispute." I blinked, disbelief settling like a heavy weight. Complaint? I am the one whose house, well, was intact until she drove an RV into it. My voice shook with anger. Carol gasped, clutching her sunglasses case like pearls. "Driven? How dramatic. I merely touched it lightly. Besides, you provoked me by refusing the obvious solution. You made me do this." The officers exchanged glances, trained to remain neutral, but the flicker of disbelief was clear. One scribbled furiously on his clipboard, muttering, "This isn't a typical dispute." I gestured wildly at the chaos. Splintered porch, dented garage corner, flattened mailbox. "Do you see this? This is not a normal HOA issue." Carol pouted, leaning on the RV with theatrical elegance. "Normal, darling? We live in a world of rules, and your rules are pedestrian." Blood pressure spiking, I growled, "Pedestrian? My house is damaged. This isn't a minor infraction. This is destruction." The officer raised a hand. "Let's calm down. We'll document the scene. I need statements from both parties." Carol clutched her chest like I'd just insulted her lineage. "Statements? Really? I've maintained perfect compliance with every HOA directive since, well, forever." I groaned, running a hand over my face. My neighbors were watching like this was some suburban gladiator match. "I can't believe I live next to this woman," I muttered under my breath. Carol tilted her head, smirk lingering. "Oh, sweetie, we're just getting started." I froze. She wasn't bluffing. Whatever was coming next, I didn't want to imagine it. The following hours blurred into scribbled notes, digital photos, and increasingly awkward exchanges. The HOA officers documented everything. Porch splinters, garage dents, tire tracks through the lawn. Carol hovered like a proud general, offering unsolicited commentary on the aesthetic appeal of destruction. I tried to stay calm, steady breaths, rational words. "This is a minor inconvenience," I said, pointing at the still menacing RV. "This is property damage. I want this reported to the police and my insurance." Carol scoffed, flipping her hair. "Insurance? How quaint. Do you really think they'll side with someone so uncooperative?" Ignoring the tremor in my voice, I clenched my fists. "Uncooperative? I didn't ask you to run an RV into my home. I just asked you not to park there." An HOA officer stepped between us. "Sir, ma'am, emotions are high. Let's keep this professional." Carol's voice, sweet and sharp, cut through the tension. "Professional? I am being professional, documenting my rights in action. Surely you understand." I felt like I'd stepped into an alternate reality. My garage partially collapsed, porch destroyed, neighbors silently judging, and Carol, unbothered, giving a seminar on entitlement. Then came a knock at the door. "Detective Harris," badge flashed briefly. "I understand there's been an incident involving property damage and potential reckless behavior." Carol's expression shifted, calculation replacing panic. "Detective? Isn't this a bit overdramatic? I was merely parking. Sir, ma'am, the homeowner alleges significant damage from a vehicle driven by you. We'll need a full statement. My knees went weak. The absurdity had escalated into a legal nightmare. This wasn't about an RV anymore. It was about proving that one person's entitlement doesn't outweigh someone else's home. Carol, naturally composed, smiled slow and condescending, savoring every moment. Oh, darling, you have a flair for drama. I hope you kept receipts for your little garden gnomes and landscaping. I swallowed, realizing this wasn't just a property dispute. It was a test of patience, nerve, and sanity. Detective Harris gestured to Carol. We'd take her statement first. As she recounted events in her meticulously curated reality, I felt cold dread. She had turned a quiet morning into a legal battlefield. And somehow, I knew this was only the beginning.